So our first guest speaker today is Brenda Vaughn from the Georgia Student Finance Commission, and she's going to talk to students about the financial aid terminology and kind of 101 students. All right, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And you are actually on mute right now.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to try and share my screen. Let's see. Are you able to see that?
Not yet. Yep, there we go.
Okay, perfect. So I am Brenda Vaughn with the Georgia Student Finance Commission. Otherwise, you all probably know us best as GA Futures. And we are on all social media platforms. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and always follow us looking up GA Futures. And you will get the most updated information that we have available. We're very active on social media. And so today what we're going to do is actually I'm going to go through Financial Aid 101, just sort of the overview of what financial aid is, the different types. And we're also going to demo how to create your FSA ID, which is the very first step into creating the FAFSA. So we'll just dive right into this. So financial aid, it really is just to help you pay for college expenses. And college expenses are a combination of direct costs to the institution and indirect costs to the institution. Cost of attendance is what the institution says that it thinks it might cost you to attend that university for a year. It's an estimate. It's not an amount that you have to pay the institution. It's sort of a ballpark figure to give you an idea of what it could cost you. And we'll look into what goes into that cost of attendance. So direct cost and indirect cost. So direct costs are things that are directly paid to the institution. Tuition and fees, on-campus housing, meal plan, parking permits, those kinds of things that will be directly paid to the institution. But you have other costs to college, to getting your education, and those things are indirect costs, not directly paid to the institution. And books would be one, rent, especially if you're living off campus, school supplies, groceries, any entertainment, gas, those kinds of things, cell phone bill, all are indirect costs that you will have to attending an institution. And cost of attendance includes those items. Again, just an estimate. So each institution has their own cost of attendance, and they all incorporate tuition and fees, books, supplies, room and board, personal costs, transportation, those kinds of things. So it helps you really compare the cost that it takes for each institution. And Laura, just let me know if you see any questions in the chat. Y'all just, if you have any questions, just chat them in. I'll be glad to stop. So let's talk about the different, okay. Let's talk about the different types of financial aid. So we have scholarships, grants, and work study, which are aid that you do not have to repay, which is the most important aid. And then there are loans. And by definition, any loan has to be repaid. Each type comes from different sources. So we have federal and state aid government who supports financial aid programs. Colleges and universities themselves have institutional aid. Private foundations, professional service organizations, employers and all, they also have different scholarships that may be available to you. Those are a little bit harder to find. And think about scholarships. A lot of times people think it's all merit-based, based on GPA, and it is sometimes, but not always. You can find scholarships for multiple things. So it may be height, ethnicity, religious affiliation, gender, being multiples, left-handed. Sometimes it's just posting something on social media. I'm seeing a lot of part-time work at McDonald's and Chick-fil-A and places like that that have scholarships related to the part-time jobs that they have. So there are scholarships quite a different places for you to just keep an eye out. Grants are typically need-based, which means it's based on financial need, based on the FAFSA information, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Best place to do scholarship searches. One is you've got to start early. So now is the time to start looking for those scholarships. And they said in the video, start writing those essays and getting those all ready to do these scholarship searches. Your best source is your guidance counselor's information. She has it on I'm sure on her webpage. She tweets it. I'm sure emails it to you all. Those are typically local scholarships and are the best scholarships for you to apply for because the amount of people applying for them is a lot less than the national ones. So really look to those. Also, look to other high schools around your area, even private high schools. Look at their guidance counselors' web pages to see what information they have there as well. Do not pay anybody to help you with these scholarship searches. All of this is free. And don't stop looking once you get into college. The young lady was talking about internships and things like that. So all of that will help you pay for this or reduce the cost of college. So let's talk about federal programs. So the federal government has programs available, and to be able to receive any federal aid, you have to be a U.S. citizen, excuse me, or an eligible non-citizen, high school graduate or GED recipient in a valid degree or certificate program, valid Social Security number. Males, you have to be registered for selective service, and you have to be maintaining satisfactory academic progress. And that means that you have to be completing the courses that you are enrolling in. So if you're withdrawing or failing courses and you're not completing the ones you're enrolling in, that means you're not making satisfactory academic progress. And so you may not be eligible for any federal or state aid. So it's real important to make sure you're completing the courses that you're enrolling in. So the different types of federal aid programs, one is the Pell Grant. This year, the most students get is just a little over $6,000 for the year. Pell Grant is not an all or nothing, so you could actually get less than that depending on your EFC. Your EFC is your expected family contribution, and that number is developed based on the FAFSA and the information that you put on the FAFSA. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So Pell Grant is free money to use. The Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant is also free money to be able to use for your college. It is a limited amount of money, so this money is first come, first serve. So if you think that you would be eligible for that type of money, meaning you and your parents have really low income, that means you want to apply early. The FAFSA opens October 1st for you all who are starting school fall 21. So October 1st, if you feel like you may be eligible for some of this supplemental educational opportunity grant, you want to apply as early as possible to make sure that you get it. Each institution has what they call a priority consideration deadline. That's within the financial aid office. And I think UGA's is December 15th. And so if you have your FAFSA completed by December 15th and you're eligible for the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, you're more likely to get it than if you applied with the FAFSA after December 15th, because that money will probably be gone. So it's real important to check with your institution to see what their priority deadlines are. Another first come, first serve program is the Federal Work Study Program. And it's typically a part-time job on campus, and I think very useful. It's easy to go to school and then go to the job for 1 hour and then go back to class. those kinds of things. So it's a very nice program to be a part of. And if you're not eligible for the work study program, there are still on-campus jobs that you can use that have that same benefit. So keep an eye out for that as well. And of course, you want to utilize all of your scholarships and grant money first. But if you have to and you need to go into loans, there are some available. So there are two different types of student loans. One is the subsidized, which is money that a student can borrow. It is need-based, so it depends again on your EFC and the other aid that you have. But it means that the government will pay on the interest while you're in school. So if I'm a freshman and I'm offered a subsidized loan and I decide to borrow $1,000, if I don't borrow any more money for the next 4 years, I graduate, I only owe $1,000. Okay. Now you see the interest rate is 2.75%. Well, I just said that we're not accruing any interest, but you will once you start repayment. So if I graduate and I have $1,000, I could write that check and be done with it. But if it's going to take me a year or two to pay that off, that time it will be accruing an interest at a 2.75% interest rate. So subsidized is your first choice of loans. The second is your unsubsidized loan. This means you will accrue interest while you're in school. So the same $1,000, when I graduate, I will be paying back the $1,000 plus the 2.75% that I've earned over the 4 years. The PLUS loan is for the parents. Only one parent can be a borrower. It is based on credit history. The parent can borrow up the cost of attendance minus any of the other aid that you have. And the interest rate for that is 5.3%. So that would be in the parent name. Students, you do have loan limits. So as a freshman, the most that you can get is $5,500. The most subsidized that you can get is $3,500. And then the rest, the other $2,000 would be an unsubsidized loan. So you will be offered it. You don't have to take any of it. In fact, you could take just some of it. So it's really important to determine your own financial need and decide exactly how much of that money you need. Only borrow what you need, because if you haven't, I promise you you're gonna find ways to spend it, and it's gonna be costly to pay that back. So be real careful when you're borrowing loans. Okay, any questions on the federal program? Not hearing any. All right, so let's go on to the Georgia federal aid programs, which most of you are familiar with. HOPE program. The HOPE program is parts of a lot of pieces. So the HOPE Scholarship and Zell Miller Scholarship, the HOPE and the Zell Miller Grant, the GED Grant, and the HOPE Career Grant. All of that is part of the HOPE program, which is funded by the Georgia Lottery. To be eligible, you have to meet all of these requirements, most of which are the same requirements for federal aid as well. I want to talk about two pieces that are real important. You do have to be a legal resident of Georgia, and you do have to attend an eligible post-secondary institution. We do have a list of the eligible institutions, and you will see every single one of them are within the state of Georgia. The HOPE program cannot be used outside the state of Georgia. So I want to make that, I get that question a lot. Now let's talk about the HOPE scholarship first. So the HOPE scholarship, to receive the scholarship, you have to be working towards an associate's or bachelor's degree. You have to graduate with a 3.0 high school HOPE GPA. And you have to have 4 academically rigorous courseworks. And I'm pretty sure that you all are meeting that rigor requirement. I don't think you even have to worry about that. But it is advanced placement courses, IB courses, any dual enrollment courses, advanced maths like physics, chemistry, pre-calculus, those kinds of things. So I'm sure you're meeting those without any problems. Your high school HOPE GPA is calculated by us here at Georgia Student Finance Commission. We calculate from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. Transcripts are uploaded by your counselor, and you can view those at any time on gafutures.org. So make sure you're creating an account. You can click on My GA Futures and then on My High School HOPE GPA. It will look something like this. You'll be able to see your HOPE calculation. You'll be able to see how many rigor courses that you have. And if you really want a detailed report of your calculation, you can click on View Your Detailed GPA Report, and that will show you your transcript and tell you exactly which courses are being counted towards your HOPE GPA and which ones we've considered rigor and we've added weight to. And again, you can do that today. It will have from 9th grade all the way to your 11th grade classes. We will get transcripts again, I think in February, and we will do a preliminary HOPE GPA, which your colleges will be using to do early awards. And then we will have a final HOPE calculation at graduation. And that will be the final GPA calculation, which will determine your HOPE or your Zell eligibility. So maintaining the HOPE scholarship while you're in college, we will be checking every spring semester, and we will check when you attempt 30 hours, 60 hours, and 90 hours to make sure you're maintaining a 3.0 college HOPE GPA. You will be able to follow your college HOPE GPA, same place, gafutures.org. You go to My GA Futures, and then you click on My College HOPE Profile. We will be getting transcripts every semester from institutions to update your college HOPE GPA and where you are on being checked. So your college HOPE GPA is different. We're the only one that calculates it. It is calculated every semester. We do add weight to STEM courses. So any STEM courses that you're taking, we do add that weight to. We have a list on GA Futures of what that includes as well. And high school dual enrollment classes are not included in this calculation. So that's why it's real important to make sure you're checking GA Futures to see where your college HOPE GPA is. So that's the HOPE scholarship. Let's talk about Zell Miller. So Zell Miller, if you're the valedictorian or the salutatorian, then and meet your HOPE eligibility requirements, then you would be able to receive the Zell Miller scholarship. If you're not one of those two people, you do have to have a minimum of a 3.7 high school HOPE GPA, and you have to score the 1200 on the SAT or 26 on the ACT. So I'll go ahead and answer the question that's on everybody's mind, because I know that many institutions are no longer looking at SAT, ACT scores for next year. That has not changed for us. We are still, at today, September 11th, 2020, today we are still looking to get SAT and ACT scores for Zell Miller. Graduates of 2020 have until December 30th to make those scores or get those scores and send them to us. They're in college right now utilizing the HOPE program or the HOPE scholarship. If they send us the scores by December 30th, we'll pay the difference and let Zell cover the rest. And anything like that could change for you all for next year, but right now, just assume that you're going to have to take the SAT or the ACT, and you're going to have to make the 1200 or the 26 on it to be able to receive the Zell Miller scholarship. To maintain Zell Miller, you have to maintain with a 3.3 college HOPE GPA. You will be checked again every spring semester when you attempt 30, 60, 90 hours per semester. We'll check then to make sure you have your 3.3 HOPE GPA. If you go down to a 3.2 or anything up to a 3.3, you could get the HOPE scholarship. And then when you're checked again at your 60 or 90, if you're back to the 3.3, we can then put you back to Zell Miller Scholarship. You can only get your Zell Miller back once. Same as Hope. If you lose it, you can get it back, but only once. If you are enrolling at an institution and you come in with the Hope Scholarship, you can never go up to the Zell Miller Scholarship. Okay.
I do have a question if I can jump in.
Sure.
So back to the testing for Zell Miller. These are conversations I've had all week with students. So I wanted to just pick your brain on something. So we did start school a month later than we usually do. So we're doing a lot this month, and students are adjusting to virtual school at the same time while working on applications. If students are going test optional to all of their colleges, and they really want to focus on virtual school right now and focus on getting their applications done and complete, are there any issues that you can see that might arise if students decide to wait and start testing maybe in December once they've completed applications? Can you share a little bit of your thoughts on that?
So your class of 21 is no different right now than we've had for years. You have this whole year up till graduation to take your SAT or your ACT. And 2 years ago, students might have waited till December or January to start taking their SAT. The only thing that limits you is the amount of time or opportunity you have to take it. Now, I get that you're limited on those anyway based on current situations. So that's just really up to you. It just limits the amount of opportunity that you have to take it again.
Thank you.
Okay. And again, anything could change if they throw test scores out and you've taken the SAT, then you took the SAT and at least you were ready, But if some students have said, I've heard them say, well, I'm just not going to worry about the SAT. Well, if this regulation stays, then you're opting out of the possibility of getting Zell Miller Scholarship. So I always work towards what I know, and if it changes, we just adjust. And we've been kind of doing that for the last, since March. And so I think we're becoming real accustomed to that. But, and I hate that we don't have a concrete answer, but we'll just have to see what happens. Okay. So that's the Zell Miller Scholarship. To keep all of those, you have to maintain the GPA. You cannot go over 127 semester hours. And again, dual enrollment classes do not count towards that. You have up until 10 years, up to 10 years to use the HOPE program. But once you've received your first bachelor's degree or professional degree, then you're no longer eligible. Okay. So the grants are if you are working towards a certificate or diploma program. You do have to graduate from a high school or have a GED. There is no GPA requirement or test score requirement for the grant. So you'll enroll towards a certificate or diploma program if you maintain a 2.0 college cumulative GPA, and you'll be checked at 30 and 60 semester hours, then you'll be able to keep the HOPE grant. If you are able to earn up to a 3.5 cumulative GPA, you could actually move up to the Zell Miller grant. And again, that's only for certificate and diploma programs. There's also the HOPE Career Grant, and there are just a ton of options here that you can work towards. There's movie productions, automotive, early childhood, aviation, there's logistics, there's cybersecurity, health services, just a lot of certificate and diploma programs that you can get some extra money to help pay for those that education. So let's talk about the award amounts and what each of those will give you. So the HOPE Scholarship and the HOPE Grant will pay a portion of your tuition. No housing, no books, no fees, no meals, just a portion of your tuition. And the Zell Miller Scholarship and the Zell Miller Grant will pay for your full standard tuition. So you definitely want to aim for the Zell Miller. The Hope Career Grant, depending on how many hours you're enrolled in, will depend on how much extra money you'll be able to get with the Hope Career Grant. So let's talk about the application process for both the federal, well, we're going to talk about, well, it'll be both federal and state. Basically, there's the GSF apps, which is for the Georgia Student Finance Application, and then there's the FAFSA. You've probably heard the FAFSA a lot. GSF apps may be a little new to you. So the GSF apps, it's on GA Futures. You have to have an account. It will only screen you for state aid. It's a one-time application, so you don't have to renew it again. You fill it out once. I promise it's about 10 minutes, and you're done. Seniors, you can go ahead and complete that application this year at any time. The FAFSA, it's available October 1st. You have to renew it every year, and it will determine eligibility for federal and state aid. You can list up to 10 institutions. So October 1st, even if you have not applied, you've not been accepted, you haven't even talked to an institution, but if you're thinking about going to one or applying to one, go ahead and list them, okay? And so that will screen you for both federal and state aid. Now, to apply for the GSF apps, you will log in, click on the Hope State Aid tab, and click on State Aid Applications. Then you will click on the very first one, the GSF apps, and you will complete the application there. I am going to encourage you to do both for a couple reasons. Filling out the FAFSA, we encourage everyone their first year to fill out the FAFSA just to see what you get. Of course, your goal is to have a really low expected family contribution so you can get the most free money as possible. The GSF apps, of course, will just screen you for the state aid. So if you fill out the FAFSA and you're not eligible for any need-based free money, you don't want to get loans, your institution doesn't require it, a scholarship doesn't require it, so next year you're like, I don't need to fill this out again. Since you already filled out the GSF apps, then you don't even have to worry next year. You just don't fill out the FAFSA and the GSF apps will automatically renew the Hope or the Zell. Okay, so that's one reason. The second reason is if for some reason you're selected for verification for the FAFSA, that slows down the process just a little bit. And so if you go ahead and complete the GSF apps, then that will at least get your state aid rolling and to help pay for your tuition at least. So doing both is very important. So let's talk about completing the FAFSA. The first thing is it's free, so don't pay anybody to do it for you. And again, October 1st, and you want to start by creating an FSA ID. Now, there are two ways to complete the FAFSA. You can do it by a mobile app by using My Student Aid. You can do that on your phone, or you can go to FAFSA.gov and complete it there. And the screenshots that I'm going to show you are from the website. Same data, just a different look. So you'll still be able to use this information while you're doing it on your mobile app if you choose to do that. Now, to complete your FAFSA, you do need your Social Security numbers, tax returns, W-2s, bank statements, any untaxed income, those kinds of things, and you're going to need your FSA ID. So let me show you how to create your FSA ID. This you can do before October 1st. So feel free this weekend or later this afternoon to go ahead and create your FSA ID by following these steps. So you can go to FAFSA.gov, click Start Here, and then you're going to create your FSA ID. Now, the student's going to need an FSA ID, which is the applicant for the FAFSA, and a parent will need an FSA ID. And both of you will need it to electronically sign the FAFSA and to utilize the IRS retrieval tool. You can get to creating your FSA ID via this website, fsaid.ed.gov, and it's the same method, just a different look. So a lot of times I just send parents to this website, fsaid.ed.gov, and they're able to create their username and their password. But I'm going to show you what it looks like going straight through FAFSA.gov, which most students do. So you'll click Start here. You will click I am the student. And here's where you'll find where you create your FSA ID. Now, if you have one, you can just log in here and continue on. But if you don't, you click Create One. It's going to look like this. So on this Create an Account page, you click the Get Started button. You'll enter your first name, middle initial, last name as it appears on your Social Security card, and that's very important. All of this information has got to match the Social Security Administration office. So your date of birth, make sure it's correct. And really it's important to do your own FSA ID and for parents to do their own FSA ID. Sometimes we get carried away and we're putting our information when we're supposed to be putting our child or our parents. So it's easier if you just do your own. So make sure your birth date is correct. Your Social Security number, again, I can't tell you how important it is to make sure that is correct. And then click Continue. And now you can create your username, and you may see a pop-up window and it says something like this information or this username has already been used. Doesn't mean it's yours or you created one before. It just means it's been used already. If you want to add numbers or special characters or something towards the end to make it your own, and then check for the availability at that point. Then you're going to have your password. Make sure you meet all the requirements. I think it's 8 to 30 characters, one uppercase, one lowercase, one letter. So make sure you're doing that, and make sure you're putting this information somewhere, because again, you're going to need this for the next 4 years and every time you're completing the FAFSA. Oh, and that was actually your email address. I'm sorry. So your email address, make sure it's a personal, excuse me, a personal email address. Do not use your high school email address because you won't have access to that later. So make sure you're using a personal email address. If you don't have one, I would make one, and please make the email address appropriate, if you know what I mean. Okay, and now your password, or confirm your email address, then you have your password, and again, make sure you're meeting all the requirements for the password, and then click Continue. Include your mailing address, and here you can sign up for how you want to receive your, oh no, I messed up, okay, how you want to receive your information, either via snail mail or on text or email and those kinds of things. So you can mark that. Oh, and here's where you're going to mark where you want your information from, whether it's mail or postal mail. Of course, email is always better. Your challenge questions. So select your challenge questions and your answers. This is real important because this is a way to unlock if you forget your username and your password. So make sure these are questions you know and answers you know, and the answers are not case sensitive. So then review and make your confirmation, or review and confirm the information, and make sure, again, your Social Security number is correct. If you need to make any changes, click the edit button in the title information, and then you can select review and agree to the FSA terms and conditions, and then click Continue. And we're almost done. So now you're going to verify your email and your phone number that you put in. there's only one email per account and one phone number per account. So you will click on the verify my mobile number. And again, this will help with your account recovery for your usernames and your passwords. And you will be sent a text with a code. You'll enter that code here and verify that code. And then you can use that to unlock your account, receive your username, or even reset your passwords. And you have to do this before you can continue on. So once you've done your mobile number, you'll do the same thing with your email address. You'll click on verify my email address, and then they'll email you a code, and then you will take that code and you'll put it in, enter it into that that box to verify your email, and then you'll be able to use your email to unlock your account, receive your username, and reset your password. And you will have to do this process before you can move on to the next step. So if you provided an email address, then you will get an email that's a confirmation email, and you can immediately start using your account to start filling out the FAFSA and to sign a first-time FAFSA. You'll be able to use that immediately. Now, your information will be sent to the Social Security Administration for confirmation. It will take a couple days to review, but then you should receive an email confirming the results that there's been a match for your information. And if you don't receive the email or you didn't include an email address, you can always log back in and look at your personal information page to see if it says that there's a match. And then you can log into your account settings. If there's not a match, log into your account settings, review your profile, make sure everything is correct. If it is, then you may need to contact the Social Security Administration to see what the problem is and why that's not matching. For parents, same thing. They're going to have to use their name and social and birth date that's directly related to the Social Security Administration office. I've had parents who are using, like, mothers are using maiden names on their Social Security card, but they're married, so they need to make sure they're using their maiden name when they're filling out the FSA ID, whatever matches the Social Security Administration. Okay? So once you get...
Yeah. Sorry, I've got 3 questions that have come in. I wanted to see if we could pause.
Sure.
Okay. So the first question is a student fills out the GSF apps because they're thinking maybe they're going to go in state, but they ultimately change their mind and go out of state. What happens then? And is that okay?
It is completely fine. I would encourage you to do it, especially since you're not sure. So, and filling it out, so you fill it out, say you decide to go out of state. You filled out the GSF apps, it sits there, you go out of state for a year, maybe even 2 years. You decide to come back home. Well, you come back to the state of Georgia, and then you could then possibly use the HOPE program. And if you were eligible for, say, Zell Miller when you left high school, you should be eligible for Zell Miller when you return, depending on where you are on those benchmarks. And so you would still have to have not earned 127 attempted hours. You still would have had to have the 3.3 College Hope GPA at those benchmarks and those kinds of things.
The next question is, if the SAT cancels more of the upcoming test, and I'm going to also add to that question an issue I've seen from the counselor side is that some of the locations are not local. So if the test dates are getting canceled or the students can't find a local test center, what happens?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right now it's a requirement. Just like for the 2020 graduates, the need arose for a change, and the legislature saw the need and made the adjustments. So it goes back to them. I know that there's been discussion about what all is happening and how that's going to affect Zell Miller, but right now it's as is until we've been told otherwise.
Okay. Then another question came in about if you don't mind explaining the refilling the FAFSA out each year,
Okay.
why students need to recomplete it.
Sure. So when you're completing the FAFSA, every year you have to complete it because you're using different tax returns. So income changes from year to year, and it's typically going to be the student and the parent's income. And so every year income changes. And so they're going to